think we're working. I hope you guys are all doing well. Here I am out in the backyard today, braving the outdoors. My sixth period class yesterday said they wanted us outside. It's starting to drizzle, so if it gets much harder, I got my umbrella. I can just, sit out here like this, right, and teach you guys a lesson. So I hope you're all doing well. Today's Tuesday. It's supposed to be beautiful, so hopefully while you're watching this, you're sitting out there, you're enjoying the weather. Go outside, watch this in the backyard or something. Mr. O'Brien was talking yesterday about his coffee mugs. I got mine, right? This is my scriptural coffee mug. It says man of faith. It's got a quote on the top rim from the first letter of Timothy, right, which says, "As for you, man of God, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, endurance, and gentleness." So there it is. So hope you guys are all doing well. I have the privilege of teaching you guys today section 35, which is on Jairus' daughter. And what's great about this story is you get like a story within a story almost, right? It's, you see like Jesus going one way, and then next thing you know, this other miracle happens right in between. So let's start right away in section 35. So notice verse 21, when Jesus had crossed again to the other side, a large crowd had gathered around him. Now remember, what's going on here? Jesus, because of his fame, because he's starting to really grow in how much people know who he is, and he's not looking for the fame, he's not looking to be crowned king. He is kind of, every time he preaches and does a miracle, gets back in a boat and goes to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, right? So people can't kind of pick him up and carry him off to make him a king. And so he's got this large gathering, and he's almost like keeping people guessing. So he gets to the other side, and people realize that he's there. And while he's there on the other side, in verse 22, it says, one of the synagogue officials, Jairus, came forward, and seeing him, fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, saying, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come lay your hands on her that she may get well and live." He went off with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed upon him. Let's just pause for a moment here, right? Because here you have a synagogue official. His name is Jairus. And we can compare him briefly just to the Roman centurion, right? The Roman centurion that Mrs. York taught about on Thursday last week. He doesn't require that Jesus come to his house. He just says, "Speak, Lord," right? And I know it will be done. But here, Jairus, he's like a little bit more like doer, more hands-on. Like, God, I need to see this done. I need you to come into my life. And I think it's a good level of faith. I don't think it's bad, right? It's just different. All right, and so Jesus says, "Okay, good." Right, and in verse 24, we learn a large crowd followed him and pressed upon him. All right? Good. Now, here we go. Verse 25, they're on their way, and this other story kind of breaks in. This other miracle story breaks in with this woman with a hemorrhage. Right? So it says there was a woman afflicted with hemorrhages for 12 years. Now, hemorrhages is like internal bleeding. Right? She's suffering tremendously. And it says, verse 26, she had suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors and had spent all that she had, that she was not helped but only grew worse. All right? And so when she hears about Jesus, she says to herself, if I could just get so close to him, right, in the crowd as to touch his cloak, I will be healed. All right? So here's the situation. I think it's stopping to rain here a little bit, so I can put my umbrella down. Hopefully it doesn't pick back up. But here's the situation, right? Jesus is walking down the streets of Galilee. It's packed house, right? Everybody's bumping into each other. I want you to think, locker or like hallway at 2:48. Bell rang, you're in the hallway, you're all making your way to your buses, to your club, wherever it is, right? The hallway is packed. All right? So in verse 28, she said, if I but touch his clothes, I shall be cured. All right? She comes up behind him and reaches out and touches his cloak. In verse 29, immediately her flow of blood dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Now here's the crazy part of the story. Jesus, aware at once that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, Who touched me? All right? Now think about this, right? So it's 2:51. We're heading on our way down to the buses after school. You're in the hallway, and you all of a sudden you're like, who touched me? And all your friends are like, dude, relax. Yo, hey, what do you mean, who touched you? Like, everybody, like, touched you. Everyone's just kind of bumping into each other here by accident, right? But Jesus, and that's what the apostles say to him. They say to him, Lord, right, you see how we're crowded, and yet you ask, who touched me? And he said, no. Somebody touched me. Somebody touched me, right? You see, because you know the difference between walking in the hallway during school and being bumped into accidentally, and usually you don't even turn around and notice who it was. But you know the difference between an accidental bumping and somebody touching you to get your attention, right? And that's what Jesus recognizes here for the woman. All these people are bumping into Jesus, but only one touches him with the intention of being healed. And he turns around in verse 33. The woman, realizing what had happened to her, approached in fear. She's afraid, you see, because it was unacceptable for a woman to touch a man in public, right? To reach out, especially someone of high stature, right? Like the Pharisees, if you were to touch them in public, it was like a crime. Right? This is unacceptable. So she's trembling in fear, and she falls down before Jesus and told him the whole truth. And notice his response. He says, daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace and be cured of your affliction. Right? One of the things I would tell my classes is that every miracle that Jesus performs is always in the direct response to a person's faith. Right? Think about it. Let's go back to the miracles that we've seen so far. Here, the woman with the hemorrhage. Whose faith is it that results in her healing? It's her faith. Go back to the centurion servant. Whose faith is it that results in the centurion servant being healed? It's the centurion. Go back to the paralyzed man. Whose faith is it that results in the man being healed, the paralyzed man being healed? It's friends. Go back to the wedding feast at Cana. Whose faith is it that results in Jesus performing that miracle? Mary's. It's Mary's faith telling her son, you're going to do something that results in that miracle. All right, back to our other story. It's starting to rain a little bit harder now, so let me put my umbrella back up because I don't want to get it on my iPad. My computer over there is going to just have to deal. Back to 35 now. What happens now that Jesus has been delayed because of the this healing of the woman with the hemorrhage? A servant from the synagogue's house says in verse 35, don't trouble the teacher any longer, your daughter has died. So while Jesus has been delayed in healing this woman, Jairus' daughter dies. Jesus immediately says to her, look, forget about it. Don't listen to what they're saying. Continue to have what? What does it say? Verse 36. Do not be afraid, just have faith, right? Because every miracle Jesus is going to perform is going to be the direct result of somebody's faith. All right? So when they get to the house, Jesus in verse 37 does not let anyone else inside except for Peter, James, and John, the big three. Right? Peter, James, and John. All right? When they get inside, everyone's crying and screaming. As you can imagine, a young girl has just died. And he looks at them. Right? And he says to them, why are you crying? The little girl is not dead, but asleep. In verse 40, this is almost laughable. They ridicule him. They're like, dude, are you serious? Like, we know a dead girl when we see one. She's pale, she's cold, she ain't breathing, right? She's not moving, she ain't asleep, she's dead. And she just simply says, everybody get out. And he's going to take into the room Peter, James, John, and the girl's father and mother. All right? So here they go. They go into the room, and in verse 41, Jesus is going to take the child by the hand, and he's going to say to her, Talitha kum, which means, little girl, I say to you, arise. The little girl, a child of 12, immediately rose and walked around. They were utterly astonished. And he gives strict orders not to tell anyone, and that the girl should be given something to eat. All right, so the first one, what the two things, right? He raises this girl from the dead, and he says, don't tell anyone. Right? The reason why he's doing that is because he doesn't want the fame of who he is to spread just because of his miracles. He wants people to believe in his teachings and what he is here to accomplish. The second part, all right, give this child something to eat. Why are we giving her something to eat? Think about this for a moment. Is there something about people when they're raised from the dead that they come back and they're hungry? Like, why are we giving her something to eat? Well, what do ghosts not do? They don't eat. They don't have bodies. It proves that this little girl is not actually a ghost, but is in fact truly alive. That's remarkable. Think about it. Every time Jesus is going to appear to his apostles after the resurrection, we're in Easter right now, and we're reading about, during the Sunday Masses, about the post-resurrection accounts. Every time Jesus appears with his apostles, guess what he does with them? He eats. He eats. Because it proves that he's not a ghost and that he is in fact truly alive. All right? And so this story of the raising of Jairus' daughter from the dead is just one of 3 different people that Jesus is going to raise from the dead. Not including himself. Right? He raises Jairus' daughter from the dead. There's this story of this widow's son who he will raise. There's a pretty cool story where Jesus is walking in the street and he sees a funeral procession go by. And he sees this widow. And he has pity on her because she's crying. Now remember, women couldn't own property. So this was like a death sentence for her almost. And he just simply reaches out, touches the casket, and the dead boy, the dead son, pops up out of the casket, back to life. And then the third person he raises from the dead is, of course, the more well-known Lazarus, right, which is at the end of John's Gospel. All right. So now, just one more thing to touch upon, back to the woman with the hemorrhage. Right? I should have mentioned this, but it's in the Living Catholic, so you can go back and read this. But I always think about this pretty cool, right? We're in this time period now where we're kind of like by ourselves, right? A lot of time to pray, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to, think about like our actions, right? And if you think about this story of the woman with the hemorrhage, a lot of people touched Jesus that day in that crowd, right? A lot of people bumped into Jesus. But only one person that touched Jesus was actually healed. Right? And I think today, as we're in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic, right, this kind of self-quarantining time period where we're left like be alone or be only with our families, kind of ask you, like, do you bump into Jesus every day? Or are you actually trying to pray with the intention of being healed? All right? So those are my thoughts on the healing of Jairus' daughter and the woman with the hemorrhage. I love those 2 stories. They're really great. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day today. And on Wednesday, Mrs. York will come back together to speak about the feeding of the 5,000. All right, you guys have a great day in school, and I'll talk to you later. All right, there we go. Moran, out.